All right, I'm going to start the meeting now because I don't want to encourage people to be late, but I will. And I have a couple of other things that people are here to talk about, so we'll kind of move along. My name is Barbara Cooper, and I'm the chair of the Fidalgo Democrats. Thank you all for coming. And we start our meeting with an acknowledgement. We, the Fidalgo Democrats, acknowledge that we gather on indigenous land, the territorial, traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Samish and Swinomish people, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. If you're not on our mailing list, please sign up. If you put your email in the back there, you'll be notified of our upcoming meetings and anything else that we're doing. We don't send out a lot of emails, so you're not going to get lots of emails, which is, as we know, can be very annoying. Before we go any further, please turn off your cell phones, and I will do the same myself. Every time I go to a meeting, people seem to need to talk to me. So, okay, the front door of the library is locked. If you want to leave, there's this door, and the bathrooms are around the corner. Cookies in the back. Rita Sullivan.
Thank you.
I don't know where she is. We're trying to seduce people to come to the meetings just to eat the cookies, which are fabulous. All right, works for me. In the back, we have voter registration forms. If anyone here either needs to register or knows somebody who does need to register, please take them. Feel free. And let's see, there's other information on the back table, not too much, but Rita's going to help us with that. I'd like to say that the Fidalgo Democrats are an independent democratic association with a focus on education. I'd like to remind people that we are not a PAC. We cannot endorse candidates or contribute to their campaigns. We do invite Democratic candidates to talk about issues and legislations, and if you want to contribute to the candidates, you can go to their websites. They all need contributions. They also need help with their campaigns. So if you have any interest in any of the local candidates or state, federal, their websites are very efficient. We don't charge dues. Anybody can be a member of the Fidalgo Democrats by showing up. We do have a hat in the back there if anyone wants to contribute. When we have a little extra money, we donate it to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the World Central Kitchen, and we do the bread dinner every so often at the Presbyterian Church. So we do, try to help out different organizations that are very useful in this world. The meeting is recorded by Zane Butler. Thank you, Zane. And yay! And we have a YouTube channel, and in a few days Rita will send out the link. And we often find that we get a lot of YouTube views, sometimes a lot more than we get people at the meetings nowadays. We have a couple of updates, but our next meeting is going to be in July, and we've invited Judge Heather Shand to talk about the judicial system and what judges do. It seemed a very timely presentation at the moment. Enough said on that topic. But she would like to come and talk about that, and we'll see how that goes. But it sounds pretty interesting. Somebody asked me to talk about the gala. We had a gala June 1st, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of the candidates there. There was some music. There was an auction, a very lovely dinner. It was out at the casino. And basically, as a fundraiser, there were a lot of auction items. And it seemed like everything got bid and got taken away. So it was quite a successful evening. I haven't heard the numbers of what they made. Hopefully they made a bunch of money, because that was the whole point of it. But we all had a good time, and so it's a nice way to get together. You were there when, I'd say there was well over 100 people. Yeah. Yeah, Joe Bowen did speak. He talked about his mother, who had been very active he's Native American, and she was very active for a lot of Native American rights, but a lot of democratic rights as well. So I will do that. The Pride Parade is June 22nd, and both the Skagitans and the Fidalgo Democrats are going to march in the parade, and you're welcome to join us. Sarah's not here tonight, but we're going to all meet on 3rd between O and Commercial, and then they'll send us off in various directions. And it's really a fun parade. And we end at Causland, and Rosemary and Corinne will be there at a table with voter information and just different things, so it'll be...
Registered voters.
Yeah, to register voters, because there's a lot of young people, so that would be a much more useful place to have voter registration. And just be there and let them know that we support the Gay Pride Parade. And you do not have to be gay to go there. It's going to be really fun. And then we're planning on being on July 4th, which is a Thursday this year. And we'll meet again about 10:30 or so. And hopefully we'll be with the Skagit Democrats as well. So that is that. I am going to, I just handed this Monday, June 4th at 6:30 over at the Skagit PUD on Freeway Drive.
Too late.
June 4th.
Oh, June 24th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Go on.
Person should be able to read. I've had cataract surgery, you think I can read, but you'd be wrong. Okay, special guest is Gabriel Clay. She's the elections manager. There's been a lot of interest in elections, and our elections in Washington State, as you know, are all mail-in, and there's never been any issues at all, but there's a lot of issues about it that aren't really issues, but it's not a campaign event, and no candidate names will be involved. So it's mostly by the League of Women Voters, Loracana Weekly Newsletter, Concrete Herald, KSVR, and Skagit Publishing. So if you are interested in that, again, it's going to be very interesting, I'm sure. And is it on the League of Women Voters website and the Skagit Democrats? Okay, so if you forget what day it is and you're interested, it's the June 24th. It's a Monday night at 6:30. Now, Rita is going to update.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the primary, Washington State primary on August 6th. The ballots will be coming out in mid-July. But the most important thing is it's going to be a huge, long ballot. We've got 11 people running for Maria Cantwell's seat. 8 people running for Rick Larson's seat. 28 people running for governor.
Wow.
It just goes on and on. 5 for lieutenant governor, there's 7 for public lands commissioner. So it's going to be a long, long ballot. It's going to be really confusing, and it's so important that you vote the whole ballot. There's a state Supreme Court race that's critical. You know how Supreme Courts are. That race is way at the end of the ballot. So, as Fidalgo Democrats, we don't endorse candidates, but this is a list of the candidates who have been endorsed by Skagit County Democrats. They did a really extensive process, vetted all the candidates, and these are all excellent people with experience and qualifications. Such a concept. There's a few people, Alex Ramo and Deborah Lakanoff are unopposed, so they're not on this list. There's a couple judge positions that are unopposed. Anybody who was unopposed I didn't put on here. Doesn't mean they're not wonderful people, but it's not something you have to think about. You can there's links to their websites on here, so you can check them all out on your own. And don't be shy about giving small amounts of money. all of these candidates would welcome a $10 donation. It's names on their list, and you'll probably get emails, but in any case, any amount of money is really, really important to all of these candidates. So I hope I've got these that are on the back table.
Is it possible to get that in an email so we could forward it easily on to people?
Can I put it on the,
Is
I'll
that
just say
any
it's
different?
the Skagit County's
Yeah,
list.
we could, I guess.
Yeah.
That is a Skagit County, not from us.
So with the usual method through
Is that
our
the
email.
Skagit Dems newsletter?
There is, yes, there is.
This information will be in there?
It is, yeah. But this is an easier format, I think, than what they've got. So anyway, I will add it to our distribution list. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Great. Thank
Rita is a great resource for knowing what the candidates are all about, what they do. So if you have questions about candidates, ask her, because she really knows a lot. I asked her, who should I vote for? Because some of the, you can have more than one really good candidate, but she's very knowledgeable. So take advantage of that. And before we go any further, Rita kind of said that. I wanted to mention a few names. In the 10th, Janet St. Clair is running for Senate, and she's running against an incumbent and needs our support. She's come to a couple of meetings. She was busy tonight. She's a great candidate and would be a wonderful senator. And the other person running is Richard Brocksmith for the Skagit County Commissioners. And he's really another very good candidate who's really interested in what's going on. And it's kind of one of those down ballot things that people don't think about, but it's really important. So just kind of be aware of that. Again, they all have websites if you want to give them money. And so I'm going to have Marshall come up, but is there anybody here that's a PCO or a, Rita is, WIM, or an elected official? Okay. I'd like to take Dawn Ambrose, who edits the Skagit Democrats newsletter. If you want a great newsletter, get online to get that. It's really good. There's Carol and Rich Chandler, who edit the Whidbey Island newsletter, comes out once a month. Doreen Sadler does our Facebook. There's still a rally on Sunday afternoon, 12 to 1. A lot of people haven't come. WIM has been wonderfully faithful, but you are always invited, and as things get heat up a little bit, I think we'll have a bigger crowd. That is, so I think that's all my announcements. Marshall, do you want to come up for a second and show your bumper stickers?
You really don't want to hand me a microphone, do you?
No, you've got 2 minutes. Keep it.
All right. My name is Marshall Goldberg. I'm from Oak Harbor. I used to be a regular attendee here, crossing the bridge and so on. I must tell you, I haven't been here a long time. I did participate by way of Zoom. This is the smallest crowd I've ever seen here. When I used to come here, I would expect 30 to 40 to 50 people regularly. So I'm hoping someday that you'll build up your audience. The second observation has to do with these posters up here. I think they're wonderful. I'm going to try to figure out, I hope we can figure out who provided them, because I'd like to see them other places. The third thing is, I think I did this 2 years ago. I printed up, because of the critical nature of the election, I printed up bumper stickers with my own expression and at my own expense, and they look like this. Notice they're black on yellow, a cautionary bumper sticker. And I can't tell you, I don't need to tell this audience, I am very worried about this election, and I would like to distribute them to as many people who are willing to put them on their car. I've had this bumper sticker on my car for 2 years. My car has not been dented, it's not been keyed. Be bold, do not be afraid. It doesn't say I'm a Democrat, I'm saying I'm voting Democrat. And there are going to be a lot of people, I hope, who are so-called independents who will see the light and vote Democratic. So if you want one, just see me, I'll pass them out, or I'll just pass out a group of them. Take only what you'll put on your car or your neighbor's car. I actually have about 30 or 40 of these, but whatever I don't pass out tonight is going to go to another worthy organization. So on that note, I'll quit.
Okay, great. All right, I don't think there's any more announcements unless somebody is going to jump up and let me know. So we're going to move on. Thank you for being so patient, really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me hang out.
Yeah, this is Police Officer Brent Lundquist. He is going to talk to us about fraud and scams. He's been talking to different places in the city here, and it's really wonderful that what he's doing. So I'm going to, do you want the microphone or?
If you guys can hear me fine, I'll just go without, but if you guys prefer it or for the recording, I can totally use it.
It's best for the recording.
Okay, I'll use the mic, that's fine.
Okay, let me give you the good one then.
Tim?
Here we go. This is a good one.
All right, can you hear me? Perfect. So, I'm Brent Lindquist. I work for the Anacortes Police Department. I'm a community service officer. I specialize in crime prevention. So we have 3 CSOs, or community service officers. One's parking enforcement, one's animal control, and then there's me. I do crime prevention, which includes coming around and talking to groups like you guys, and I love doing it because there's a lot of information that we want to put out there, and a lot of that has to do with scams. And how many of you guys have ever had someone try to scam you out of your money?
Except all the.
Yeah, hopefully everyone's hand goes up because it happens to literally everyone. If you have an email address or any way that people can contact you on a massive scale, whether that's a phone, email, text message, whatever. Even back in the day, I got one right here from you guys. You got mail, right? Snail mail, it happens as well. So lots of different ways to get scammed. We see scam calls. If we don't see a scam call one day, we'll see 3 the next day. It's almost every day, and almost all of them within the city limits involve money lost. So people are losing tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. I mean, it's $1 billion industry worldwide. It's crazy, and the sad thing is that it's incredibly harmful, especially to older people who are losing most or all of their money, and it's very easy to avoid. That's easier said than done. I like these kind of cheeky photos. They sort of make light of a very serious situation because, people get scammed all the time. And, they're easy to avoid most of the time. You have to remember that many of these scammers are professionals, okay? This is their job. This is what they do for a living. And it is in their best interest to get all the money they can out of people that they call on the phone or contact via email or text message or what have you. So they do it for a living. Or we hear stories sometimes about people doing it under duress. So it's not always, oh my gosh, I really want to go be a scammer and I'm really good at it. Sometimes people do it overseas or domestically and they're doing it at someone else's behest. They don't necessarily want to do it, but people get caught between a rock and a hard place. And when I give these talks, I try not to focus on how awful these people are, and instead I try to just encourage people to not speak to them, because there are lots of circumstances at play here, and the best thing to do is to know what to look for. So I'm going to tell you guys, because I attend briefing every morning. I read every call from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., the previous day to the current day, and there's fraud pretty much every day. So you start to see some trends, right? And I enjoy talking about it. I like commiserating with people because, again, we've all experienced it. And I think this makes we make each other sharper in this way, and I like doing that because it's fun, it's community. Scammers pretend to be from scary, well-known organizations. Not always scary, but usually it's something well-known. You get a call from the IRS saying you're being audited, or there's an issue with your Social Security or your Medicare. These big nebulous organizations that none of us have ever really talked to, or maybe we have, and people get this fight or flight instinct and they just want to make it go away. So they're like, okay, fine, just take the money. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I want to make this go away, whatever the problem is. And then there's money gone, and that's what happens. So, you know, it's very easy to say you're from a big organization and then try to scare people, and that happens pretty often. They present a problem that you have or a prize that you've won. So there's always an objective in mind, right? Oh, your computer's compromised. You know, how would they know that? But how do I know that they don't know that, right? We're not all computer experts. Or hey, you won the PCH, the Publishers Clearinghouse. You gotta give money to make your money back, right? So they present something you have to fix or a way for you to get more money, and it happens all the time. They put pressure on you to act fast, leaving you without time to consider your actions. So this is a big one. They're going to put a sense of urgency behind all of this stuff. They're going to try to make you act immediately. Most people are going to think about these things, and if you give them time to think about it or time to talk to somebody about it, they're going to realize that it's a scam, right? But you'd be amazed the kind of tools that these scammers have to try to get past that stuff. They have scripts, they have all these different, there's like an encyclopedia of things that you can do to get people to keep going with these things, right? So, they ask you to use unusual methods of payment. So keep an eye out for this one. If they require you to use, I don't know, Zelle or Bitcoin, any kind of cryptocurrency, you know, a legitimate place is going to let you use a credit card, right? So if they require a method of payment that you don't normally use or you don't even recognize, just hang up the phone, don't continue the communication, right? But we'll get more into that. But the point is, these people know what they're doing. They're trying to extricate as much money as they can, and they have a lot of really effective methods of doing it. So, which leads us to our next slide. This is really important. We share a lot of stories here. People like to share stories about the times they've been scammed or the times they've avoided being scammed. And I like to remind people that it's easy to read about scams and think, how in the heck did this happen, right? So this is a judgment-free zone. We were talking about judges earlier. The judge is not welcome, okay? We are all here to commiserate. We're here to talk to each other. We're not here to judge each other because, like I said, it's a lot easier said than done to avoid this stuff. So, yeah, get out of here, buddy. So let's talk tactics for us to use. Have you guys ever seen the TV show The X-Files? It's a 90s show, I think early 2000s. There were some movies. One of the scariest things I've ever seen was an X-Files episode. I was in middle school or elementary school, and it scared the you-know-what out of me. And I still remember it to this day. But does anybody remember the tagline to the X-Files? There's a few of them, but what was that?
Trust no one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a dystopian way of looking at things. I don't like to tell people to trust no one because, you know, we're a community. We like to trust each other. We like to lean on each other. But when someone is calling you on the phone or contacting you via some means that you can't verify, I tend to tell people you should just trust no one. Don't give out your information through ways that you can't verify. And just keep in mind that they can't verify it either. So if the IRS is asking you for your stuff over the phone or via email, there's no way to know that they're talking to you, right? So there's lots of ways to avoid it, but just remember, if it's electronic or if it's not face-to-face communication, and even if it is, just be really careful when it involves transactions involving your money, because a lot of the time you just can't get it back. Just remember, don't provide your personal information. That's a big starting point here. If a scammer's calling you up or communicating with you, ask yourself, are you expecting the contact requesting your personal information? So just ask yourself if you're expecting it. Is it a normal piece of communication that you're receiving? If something is out of the ordinary, then maybe follow up with it. Make the phone call yourself, send the email yourself. But just ask if you're expecting it. Is it normal? Have you missed a payment before? Does this look the same? Just use every tool in your tool belt, and that includes your past experience. Is there a way to verify the call or the message? And if it's legitimate, can you complete the required action yourself? So we'll talk about this later, but if you get a call from PSE saying you're late on your energy bill, right? they'll call you and say you're late. I mean, that happens. Same with Cascade Natural Gas, and utility companies will call you and say you're late on this. Your credit card company will call you and say that. I still tell people not to go through with those transactions over the phone, because no matter how legitimate they are, there's no way for you to know that they actually are, right? They typically won't ask for your credit card information over the phone. They'll just use the stuff they have on file, and they'll just go through with it. They'll do a little recorded line, and you'll have to approve it. But it's better to just not do it, right? Just get online and do it yourself, because they're not going to show up in 5 minutes to bust your door down if you're 5 minutes later on your credit card payment, right? Just ask yourself what the consequences are to doing it yourself. Because, again, there's no way for you to know if that's legitimate. Don't click any links. We'll talk about Facebook later. I'm actually developing an entire talk about Facebook, specifically social media stuff. I'd love to come back and give it to you guys, but Facebook is a particular vector for scams. Scammers like it because most people are on it. I don't know if it's actually statistically most people, but I find most people I can find on Facebook. You know, I help with our social media checks for our candidates at the police department, and I mean, I don't think I've ever had one who didn't have social media of some sort, right? Whether it's Facebook or Instagram, but there's a lot of really easy ways to get scammed through those things. So don't click links. If you need to go to a website, Google it yourself or type in the link yourself and find it that way, because those links can be anything. You don't know what's behind it. You can hover over it and check it that way, or you can right-click it, but at the end of the day, there's no surefire way, and clicking a link is a really nice way to give someone access to your computer. If you remember nothing else from this talk, I want you to remember this one thing, and I made it bounce just so we can emphasize it a little bit. Legitimate entities will never contact you via telephone, email, or text messages requesting your personal information. Well, they already have it, or again, there's a reason that we get all of our stuff from the IRS in the mail, right? It's the only federally protected way of getting communications. So if the IRS calls me on the phone and says, hey, I have to discuss your private information, is there any way for them knowing that they're calling me? Maybe I switched numbers and didn't tell them. There's no law saying I have to tell the IRS what my new number is, right? So those methods of communication are useful, and we all use them, most of us do, but they're not considered secure. So if I'm texting my mom, you know, what's the problem? I have her number entered, I can check I'm texting the right person. But if it's regarding your personal information or your money, there's no way of knowing if it's real. So it's a lot stronger for you to initiate the contact. If someone's reaching out to you, there's just no way for you to know. So consider it fraudulent is what I tell people to do. You could be 99% sure, but 99% sure isn't 100%, and then there's a chance you can lose all your money. I don't want that to happen to anybody. So, and then it kind of pulses just so we can remember. Okay?
Not good for old people.
Yeah. And it's a little glitched here, but also a little more for you to remember. Legitimate entities will never ask you to pay using cryptocurrency or wire transfers or payment apps or gift cards. Now, payment apps, I mean, I use those sometimes. I use PayPal. I'm an eBay person. Wire transfers are legitimate if you initiate them, but if they require you to use these things, then you should consider it suspect. And when was the last time you bought something and they said, okay, I'll send it to you, but you need to pay with Bitcoin? The joke I make, and it's a little crass, but I always say people claim to be very tech illiterate until someone says go to the Bitcoin ATM and take out all your money, right? It happens often, and it's unfortunate. But I put gift cards, I mean it never is in big letters, but gift cards is there because gift cards are a really popular one for scammers because they're untraceable. Once you've bought a gift card, your money's in there, there's no stamp on it saying where the money went. I mean, that gift card is essentially a good now. It's not money anymore. It's a good or service. So there's no way for you to get your money back. You put all your money, it's happened a lot recently where people will realize after they bought the gift cards that it's a scam. So they won't give the people the number, but then they suddenly have like $3,000 of Apple gift cards that they can't refund. So
Excuse me.
just remember, gift cards are typically a no-no. I mean, no one's ever going to ask you to pay using a gift card. If they ask you to do so, it's because they're trying to get laundered money, essentially. And if you give them a gift card, you're laundering it for them. Keep that in mind. But wait, there's more. Legitimate entities will never require you to act immediately. So again, this is a big one. The sense of urgency is a huge deal. They all try to use it because if they get you on a roll, then there's a better chance that you're going to let your guard down and you're going to give away stuff that you wouldn't normally. Legitimate entities will never require you to act immediately. This is a quote from the FTC. Honest businesses will give you time to make a decision. Anyone who pressures you to pay or give them your personal information is a scammer. And again, I can't guarantee that these people are scammers, but I can guarantee that it's a good idea to not give them your information. Even if it's something you end up doing, if you initiate it yourself and you verify that it's the right website, you verify that you're giving your money to who you need to give it to, that's the best way to do it. Because there's just no way to know, right? So, if they ever pressure you to act fast, I know it can be known as a sales tactic, but the IRS isn't going to tell you have to do it now, right? So, just remember that. If you start to feel the pressure, then I would consider just hanging up the phone or disconnecting. So this next one is one of the more important things that's actually in this talk. I've added it pretty recently. It's crucial, and I think it's very practical for all of us. If you still feel the urge to give your money and or personal information to a stranger, call someone you trust and talk to them about it. So, if all else fails, if you don't remember anything from the talk, if you don't remember if it looks very legitimate to you, you know, any amount of money is valuable, right? I don't like to say that we live on money, but it is what helps us get through this crazy world, right? You have to pay your rent, you have to pay your utilities, you have to pay for a lot of stuff. So call someone and ask them about it. Say, hey, you know, someone is asking for money for this. My computer has a virus and they need me to pay money so they can fix it remotely. Just call somebody. You can call me. I'm going to leave my cards up here. You can call me at the police department. Leave me a message. I'll call you back and we'll talk about it. Because this happens all the time. It's a frequent occurrence, and I think if we just called and asked every so often, it would probably occur a lot less. But so call someone you trust. Talk to them about it. So I've put together a list of actual cases from here in Anacortes. This is stuff that occurred here specifically. This is stuff that's occurred since I started in 2021. I started in December of 2021 at the police department. This is all stuff I've seen firsthand in our calls. I don't name any names. There's no distinguishing information. It's just stuff that's happened. So remember, there's no judgment. This is just to sharpen ourselves, okay? But see if you can tell why it's a scam, okay? So we talked about the FTC earlier. What's the FTC? Does anybody know? What do they do?
Communication.
Sure. Why not? I mean, they do something. But it's an acronym, right? Those big acronyms that we're all pretty sure they do something important, but we can't quite tell. So the reporting party reports that a man called him from the Federal Trade Commission and told him that 4 bank accounts had been opened in his name. According to the caller, the reporting party would need to provide his bank information and financial management accounts. So that's a lot of big financial words there and it's all very confusing. The initial call was very confusing. It's one of those where I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I can see why you might think that's legitimate. I mean, especially if they do a little bit more research. I always tell people, if someone does a bit more research and knows a few more facts about you, we expect to get calls from like a call center. You know, if you ever answer the phone and it takes an extra few seconds and the person says hello, a lot of the time that's a call center connecting. It's putting out a mass amount of calls, and then when someone picks up the phone, it routes it to a person sitting there at a computer and talking to you. So, but if those people can maybe access your Facebook page and find out what your son's name is, or find out the city that you live in, or your birth date, because a lot of people don't have their privacy settings turned on. So they'll get that little extra piece of information, and that's often enough to fool people. Happens a lot. So, anyway, it wasn't the FTC. Lost a lot of money. I think in this case he almost lost a lot of money, but caught it in the process, which is good, but it's a close call. right? So we just talked about this one. You guys got the letter in the mail from the Publishers Clearinghouse. Do you guys remember those commercials back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
The people with the giant check going to houses with the prize winnings. I've only won one thing in my life, like one or two things in my life. I won one of the baskets at Watermark, which we definitely had to spend money to enter. And I won an iPod Nano back in 2006 at the Northwest Washington Fair. And I entered to win both of those things. The reporting party received a call from someone claiming to be from the Publishers Clearinghouse. The reporting party won a cash prize. It's pretty cool, right? The PCH just needs a $5,000 deposit to unlock your money. That $5,000 is going to pay off all the fees that you need to pay to get your $750K or whatever. You know, woohoo. But just remember, they're not going to ask you to pay money to get your winnings. That's not how it works. I need to look into the legality of it, but I don't think that's actually allowed. And you have to remember that if anybody ever offers to pay you money so that you can give them money, you have to remember that banks are creatures of convenience in a lot of ways. I can go deposit a fake check right now, and it'll show up in my available balance immediately, right? But the next day it'll probably bounce, and then suddenly that money's gone, even if I spent it already, and then I'm overdrawn. And so they can say, hey, we just need you to pay these fees. We're going to give you the money to pay the fees. Here you go. That letter says it. And the problem is that money's going to just vaporize, and then suddenly you're left holding the bag for all that money you gave them. It happens. So remember, never pay money to make money, or never pay money to win money. Otherwise, why are we entering, right? A confusing computer virus. Who knows where computer viruses come from? Or how they originate, how they work, how to get rid of them. The reporting party received a call from Microsoft tech support informing them that their computer has a virus and is compromised. Tech support just needs remote access to the reporting party's computer in order to remedy the problem. So remote access is a big deal. I give remote access to my computer all the time. It's to tech support at the city because they need to install stuff. We have a drone program, so I had to have them install some drone software on the computer, so they do it remotely. They click in, do what you need to do, but I always make the call through our city phone system. If someone ever asks for remote access to your computer, you should, pretty much 100% of the time you should say no, because they have very sophisticated and fast ways of just clicking through all your stuff and finding what they need, maybe locking you out, maybe finding any personal information you have stored on your computer that you don't realize is stored there. All my credit cards are on my laptop right here. It's in my Apple account, right? It's the quick pay on your iPhone. So if they can click through and change a password and figure out what my password is, it all happens very fast. But it happens via remote access. It's giving someone access to your computer, but people don't always realize that information is there. So, and just remember, Microsoft can't tell what's on your computer. They can't just remotely know that you have a virus. And I think that stems from the early days. I remember getting McAfee and Norton installed on our early computers in the 90s, right? You gotta have them to prevent the viruses. And I think we all just assume that they always know, and that they always have an idea. Well, Microsoft isn't gonna call you and say, hey, you got a virus, you gotta, we'll help you. I imagine they don't have time to be calling everyone who has a computer virus, but it's a complex thing. We don't always know. I don't know. So this is called the grandparent scam. This happened, I forget if it was 2023 or 2022, but it happened here. The reporting party receives a call from an unknown person claiming that the reporting party's grandson has been taken captive in Costa Rica, or any country that's not here, right? They need a large sum of ransom money to make the situation go away and get the grandson out safely. So that's a scary thing, to get a call saying, hey, we're holding him hostage. I always tell people, hey, I always let people know they may have extra information, right? They may know your name, they may know your grandson, they may have your grandson's voice. AI is a pretty sophisticated thing these days. It's not very common that they're going to do that kind of thing, but they might. So I always tell people, just call the grandson, call the son, call the family and verify. Just verify before you give them the money. It happens a lot. People lose money this way because, I mean, people are inherently good most of the time, right? Most of the people we know just want to, they just want to help. They want to get their grandson out of this situation, but usually it just takes a call to the grandson. He's like, no, I'm not in Costa Rica. But people often read these and they're like, how would you fall for that? And I always say, imagine, what if your grandson is in Costa Rica? All it takes is a glance at his Facebook page, which isn't set to private, and they have an extra piece of information that can convince you. So remember to verify, because you don't want to lose your money. Like I said, I can't tell you that that's not true, 100% not true. Maybe he did get kidnapped, but he probably didn't. So keep that in mind, okay? So I like this one a lot. I think I turned the microphone off, did I?
I think so.
Hello? Maybe?
I'm just trying to scan you.
Somebody recording into my microphone? Give it a try. I'll talk loud. So I have a few YouTube channels that I recommend that people watch. One of them is called Kitboga. It's Kitboga. And he's a computer guy. I don't know what his profession is, but he likes to scam the scammers. So a lot of the ones that I've seen is where a person will call and say, hey, you get a refund because you paid too much for this thing, so we're going to give you money for your bank account. And often they'll know what your bank account is, so they'll put a fake version up on your computer because you'll give them remote access. That's part of the scam. They will it'll make it look like it's your bank account, and then you'll have to, you'll see, let's say you're going to get $1,000, right? So you'll watch for the $1,000, and they're going to say, oh no, I accidentally gave you $100,000. Can you just give me the money back? I'm going to get fired if you don't give me the money back. So I need you to go to Target and buy me some gift cards, please. Otherwise I'll get fired. I can't do it legitimately. You got to go. Think of my family. This happens a lot. It's a popular one. It's a classic example because it's another example of someone just trying to do the right thing. And it's hard because as far as you're concerned, looking at that screen, you have the money to give them. You're not giving them your own money. You're giving them money they accidentally gave to you, even if they didn't. But when you're going to get the money to give back to them, be it gift cards or whatever, it's coming straight out of your account. So it happens often, and it's kind of baffling because it takes a lot. In this YouTube channel, they make them go to Target, they stay on the phone, buy the gift cards, you have to read it to him. He usually strings them along for like 16 hours or so across multiple days because they'll follow up with you if they think they can get your money. And then eventually he doesn't read them the gift card numbers and he pretends like he's buying stuff on Amazon when he's not, and the scammer screams and yells and hangs up. And it's very funny, it's a little schadenfreude, but it's a nice example for us to see how they work, right? It's a nice long video for you to watch that just shows how the scammers are going to try to get you to do what they want you to do. So I can give you those later, but they're very interesting. They're very informative for this kind of thing because we don't always get to hear what happens. A lot of us are just going to hang up the phone, but if you can hear these scams and move through them, then, a lot of people in town like to say, well, I talked to a scammer for 4 hours one day and just let him along because I was busy or I wasn't busy and I just wanted to mess with them. Well, good for you, but please be careful. Don't get too far in. So, scams happen to people of all ages, right? We often think of it as something that happens to elderly people, and I think a lot of people assume that it's because elderly people aren't tech savvy, but that's not really the case. A lot of the time it's because elderly people have more money. You'll have retirement or something, savings that maybe a young person won't have. But that doesn't mean that young people don't fall for stuff. So this happens a lot all over the world, but the reporting party has been chatting online with a young woman for a while now, and the woman is now claiming she will send explicit photos of the reporting party to his grandmother if he doesn't send a large sum of money. So this is a tragic one because imagine if you're the kid chatting with the woman online and the only photo you've provided is a photo of your face, right? You sent a selfie. So these days it takes 5 seconds. Throw it into AI, and it generates a horrible, explicit photo with your face on it. Even if you can tell it's fake, imagine you're a 7th grader, and suddenly that photo could get out to your friends. It's tragic. It leads to tragic things happening, and it's amazing what people will do and what lengths they'll go to. But a lot of the time, I mean, they don't know who your grandmother is, they can't send it, but the threat is there. And dating apps are a thing now, chatting with people online is a thing now. I don't like telling people that you can't do that, but it's a really, really easy way to get scammed. So just be careful with the information you provide if you're chatting with people online. There's no way to know they are who they say they are. And even if they are, it can go a lot deeper. You know, a lot of people will get scammed and they'll just keep doing it. They'll keep chatting because maybe the person's friendly. Maybe they don't know it's a scam immediately, but it does happen. So be careful when you're chatting, when you can't verify people. It's crucial because, like I said, this happens a lot. This happens in town. This is a new one since COVID. You got the job. So the reporting party interviewed for a remote job on Zoom and got the job. She interviewed face-to-face with the person. This happens. Her employer requested her bank account and personal information to order a new laptop for her so she can do her job. So you got the remote job. So they're going to send you a laptop to do your work. Except they're not. They're going to take your money out of your bank account. This one's hard because a lot of the times that it's happened here, it's been someone who talked face-to-face with the person. They actually had a job interview with an actual person, and it seemed perfectly legitimate. And then when it came time to receive the computer or order the computer, they find a cleaned out bank account instead. And it's a pretty devious one because it's just someone who's looking for work and someone who's probably qualified, and they lose all their money. So if you're looking for contract work or some kind of work online or anything like that, just try to verify it. Maybe call the company, ask for the person's name. A lot of the time it will be a person who is reaching out. This Publishers Clearinghouse person is a real person. I've heard a lot of stories where people can actually get the CEO on the phone and the CEO will say, I didn't send that. And which I think is interesting because they're a CEO and they're still willing to do that. I think that's cool. But just in order to verify, just take the extra few steps and make sure you know if it's real or not. Because that could very well be real, I don't know. I know people who've gotten jobs online and made a good living doing it, but it can also go the other way. So just be careful. So this is one of the first cases that I worked on at the APD. I helped collect some security footage for it. So the reporting party is expecting a debit card in the mail for an account that has $10,000 in it. So you deposit it remotely from one of your other accounts. It's kind of an ACH deposit. The debit card never arrived, and the reporting party chose to wait because sometimes the mail takes a minute, right? And usually those kinds of letters are not tracked. So it's not like a package that you can track. You're just expecting it to appear someday. So the reporting party eventually wonders where the card is, checks the account, realizes it's been emptied. And that's unfortunate because it's real money that was just sort of taken out in her name. What ended up happening here is it was a mailbox called, it was a mailboxer. He was just stealing stuff from mailboxes. Turns out he got a debit card with $10,000 on it. Luckily, he decided to go spend it locally in front of security cameras, and he used his loyalty email address to get points. His email address was his name, so his name @gmail.com. So it was pretty easy to figure out who he was. But yeah, I always recommend people get informed delivery. Consider a post office box, but I don't think everyone needs to do that. But just remember, you can also consider a locking mailbox, but just remember, your mailbox is this weird thing outside your house where really important things are put, and usually they're not locked. So it's a federal crime to come and steal stuff from your mailbox, but it's really easy to do. Because, you know, are you watching your mailbox all the time? Maybe you have a camera on it, but consider informed delivery. Does everybody know what that is? You sign up for it for free through the post office, through USPS, and you get an email every morning that has a scan of every piece of mail you're supposed to get. And you can cross-check it with what you actually get, because everything gets scanned. And it's the post office. Things happen. I find the only time I ever have to go track down a package is when it costs like $300 or more. If I'm getting like razors in the mail for my face, they're always going to be there. But if it's a video game console, it's going to be put on the next block or something. It's just a rule. We got back from Yellowstone last summer, and I was expecting 3 letters, and they handed me a stack of stuff from our P.O. box, and they were like, "This didn't fit in your P.O. box," and I was like, "Okay." And I left, and it was like 3 other P.O. boxes worth of stuff. It was primary ballots. And I walked back in, I was in uniform, and I just like handed it to him, and I was like, "It's okay, it's just election materials. It's not important or anything." And they were like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, "I don't know, I got my stuff." But like, imagine, I could have just left. So, it's nothing against the post office, it's just, you gotta be careful, because humans make mistakes, right? And it's very easy to just slip something into the wrong mailbox. It happens. It's physical mail. So this is one I like to slip in here, because this stuff, we talked about it earlier. They will call you if you're late on your power bill or your credit card. Some of these calls are legitimate. I still want you guys to get into the habit of doing it yourself. Don't do it over the phone. Don't do it over the internet, via email. Just sign on to your online account and do it yourself, because there's no way to know if it's legitimate. Numbers can be spoofed. Numbers can be faked. It can look like you're getting a call from, whoever, the IRS, PSE, Cascade Natural Gas. Just do it yourself, even if it's legit. Say, "I'm sorry, I'm going to do it myself," and do it. They're not going to shut your power down because you took an extra few minutes. You guys ever seen these posts on Facebook? I see them every single day. I can't believe he's gone, I'll miss him so much. Now, I hate vague Facebook posts because it's just fishing for comments, but in recent years, that link is probably not that actual link. It's going to take you to a thing that's going to give access to your computer. It's usually tags like 53 people, and there's maybe a video of a car crash included, and then you'll see your friend is tagged in it, and you're going to think, "Oh my gosh, what happened to him? Why are you going to miss him?" And you click it, and then you give access to your computer. So I see these posts every single day on my feed, and it's usually because somebody else clicked something, and then you get a post down below that says, "I've been hacked, don't click anything for me." And Facebook's hard because I feel like I get friend requests from people that I'm already friends with all the time, and I'm like, my landlady has, I think, 3 accounts, and she only opened one of them. So people can copy your account very easily, and she's reached out to Facebook a few times, and they're like, "We can't verify it's not you, so we're not going to delete it." It's like, they're selling fake Britney Spears tickets and stuff. It's crazy. So, it's hard, because when you actually call this company to try to get them to fix it, you're sort of up against a brick wall. And she didn't do anything. She just had the audacity to have a Facebook account like most of us have. So, keep an eye on Facebook. I don't trust it. I'm a little hypocritical because I still have one, but I usually tell people, if you don't use it very much, or you don't find any use in it, just delete it. It's just a nice vector into your life. But I keep it for various reasons, because it's a nice way to keep up with people, but you just have to be careful. I don't accept friend requests anymore, because I just assume it's not the real person. Anyway, let's talk about some stuff we can do to prevent it, okay? We're winding down here, just a few more slides. Block pop-ups is something you can do in your browser. Pop-ups pop up all the time. You can click them on accident. They'll pop up where your mouse already is. So if you click something else, you'll accidentally click the pop-up, and it gives access to your computer. It's too bad, but it's an honest mistake because we don't always know we're doing it. And pop-ups are real. Your computer has pop-ups on them. That things happen all the time on Windows. You'll get pop-ups, oh, there's an error, and then you hit close. It happens all the time. So it's hard to tell if they're real. If you block them, then you don't have to worry about it from the internet anyway. Block unwanted calls and text messages. I can show you how to do this on your phone if you have questions. Usually it's just opening the contact card and scrolling to the bottom, and there should be a red block this caller. My blocked calls list is longer than my contacts list at this point, just because, I don't know if it's a scam, why make them allowed to call me? block them. It's very easy to do. They'll always call you back from a different number, but we can all fight the fight, right? This is an old one, but a good one. Get on the National Do Not Call Registry. Usually those are legitimate entities, but it'll save you from some annoyances. That's just something I put up there. Scammers aren't usually checking that registry before they call you, but it's still nice to get on there. Don't click links or open any email attachments before carefully considering them. Email attachments are a thing, right? But just make sure that you know who it's coming from, that it's actually from the email address you think it's from. And, you know, if you can, contact the person in person, give them a call, send them a text message and say, hey, did you email me this? And if they didn't, then, you know, consider it spam, because there's no way of knowing if it's real. Get online access to your bank account so you can check it anytime. So I know some people in town who are very resistant to this. They like to balance their checkbook by hand. I recommend, if you want to do that, more power to you, that's awesome. But the ability to check your bank account anytime is what our banks are set up to do now. You can log on, check it with the push of a button, use your Face ID, sign in, maybe enable two-factor authentication so that there's an extra vector, or there's an extra sort of firewall there to keep people from getting in. But just try to get access to your bank so you can check it anytime. Because I think balancing your checkbook once a week or once a month isn't quite enough. People will clean out your account pretty quickly if you lose access to it, right? Check link URLs before you click on them. You can hover your mouse over and see what pops up. If it's what you're expecting, then it's probably okay to click it. But if it's not, it's probably a hyperlink that's made to look like a link you want to click, and it's not actually that. You can also right-click on it if you have Windows, or control-click on it if you have a Mac, and then check it that way through the Properties menu. Just a nice way of checking if the URL is actually what you think it is. It's a pretty, again, probably there's no URL. That's just www.whatever, facebook.com. But you can, hyperlinks are just that. You can change what they say, you know? So it could say facebook.com, but lead somewhere completely different. And if you hover over them, then it'll probably pop up with a little URL, and it'll show you where it's actually going to take you. This is just a general call to action for me. Be careful on social media. Trust no one. There's no way to know anybody is who they say they are. A lot of people don't button up their privacy settings. Like I said, I don't accept friend requests anymore. I'll initiate them sometimes if I know it's the person, but I get a lot of requests from people who I'm already friends with, and that's a nice red flag for you. So, button up your privacy settings, maybe make yourself invisible unless you're friends with somebody. You know, I know people want to be discovered by people they knew in the past, but is there a really good reason to be discovered by someone you don't know? In the age of scamming, probably not, but you may disagree, that's fine. But just be careful, because it's a very popular place to be, and that will attract scammers, right? We already talked about informed delivery. I would consider that. You get a scan every day of all the mail pieces you're supposed to be getting, and a nice little list of packages. Monitor your credit and set up fraud alerts. So annualcreditreport.com is a nice place to go. They'll give you a free look at your credit, and it's nice to see your credit score, but it's even nicer to see a list of accounts that are open in your name. So there might be a line of credit open that someone's using that you don't even know about, and you'll see it there. You cross-check it with the ones you know you have, and then go from there. You can call ic3.gov, we'll talk about that in a minute, and get that report, because, you know, if there's a line of credit open, you're not necessarily going to know that someone's using it because they're not taking your actual money, they're just using credit. And you don't always get alerted to that stuff, so. Monitor your credit, set up fraud alerts if you have like Experian or anything. I usually encourage people not to pay for that kind of stuff because it feels kind of scummy to pay money to have someone monitor your money so you're not losing money, but Experian has a free version, you can check it. It's very useful, I have it. So unfortunately, people do get scammed. It happens every day, like I said. And I like to talk about what to do if you do get scammed. This is very crucial. Don't just do nothing. People get very ashamed when they actually get scammed. It's a really hard thing. It's not just losing money. It's a dignity thing. I mean, you feel bad about it. You feel bad, you feel dumb, but like I said earlier, it happens to so many people. It happens to people of all ages, and it happens to people right here in our town. And it's important to not just do nothing. One of the most powerful things you can have is a case number through the police department. Because then when you call your bank, at the very least you can say, I have a case number, I've reported it to my local law enforcement, I'm actually taking steps to try to make this better. It's hard to get money back when you've spent it on gift cards or something, but there's sometimes a recourse. There's sometimes things that you can do. So I always tell people, just make the phone call, swallow your pride. It will be hard for me to make that phone call, but it's important to do. So call 911, tell dispatch what happened. They will report, so you can report the scam and potential lost money to the police department in the jurisdiction where the loss occurred. So if you took the call here in Anacortes, you're going to talk to an APD officer. If you were in Sacramento at the time, you'll talk to someone there probably. You may also make a report to us, it depends. But dispatch will route it to the right place. They'll give you a case number, they'll document it, and you never know. You never know. It's tough, but banks have fraud departments. I mean, it's a whole thing. Key Bank called me 2 hours ago when I was doing the senior parade. They called me and said, hey, can we come to your next scam presentation? Because they see it every single day. And they have a person now, like a specific person with those resources who wants to come to these things. And I was like, absolutely. Like, you're a bank person, you see it firsthand. So just make the call. And like I said, there are ways to avoid it, but it's hard. So don't just do nothing. Officers will help you with the next steps. You'll likely have to close your accounts and open new ones with different numbers. So that's kind of a given. If you've given away your account information, you'll have to take all your money out, what's left of it, open new accounts. That's a pain in the butt, but it's crucial. So this one's tough because I've heard it's kind of hard to use, but ic3.gov is the government reporting portal. You'll go there, make your report. I think the FTC has one as well. So, but that first step is kind of the crucial part here. Don't just do nothing, you know? You're not the criminal here. You're not the bad guy here. You're the person who got tricked into doing this, right? And it happens to everybody. It happens to people of all ages. It happens to people of all demographics. So we can be careful, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you can to get your money back. So that's kind of the big point here. If someone calls and asks for your money, just try to verify it. Do whatever you can, make a phone call the entity they're supposedly from. Just take an extra few steps and verify it. And that's so much easier said than done because it's not always that easy. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes you think someone's in danger. Sometimes you think they're going to turn your heat off or something. You just want it to go away. Just verify it because once your money's gone, then it's often just gone, and it's hard to get back. So just take the extra step, make the extra phone call, and just try to get it back. It's tough. So, on that note, I appreciate you guys listening to me. Hopefully it's informative and helpful and not too dry. It's a fascinating topic to me. It's a very sad topic to me, even though sometimes you read it and you're like, oh, how did that happen? But at the end of the day, it's just about keeping each other sharp and being a community about this kind of thing and kind of fighting it because there's a lot of people trying to take your money and they don't deserve it because it's yours. You worked hard for it. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas, or maybe stories about times they've fought scams or times they've been scammed or times they've, done anything in between? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you.
This isn't related to a phone situation, but last night, this is the example, I went to an event in Everett Lane, needed to find a parking space, there's a guy with a flag,
Sure.
dollars are here, and I'm not in the, whatever the thing that you call your phone pay stuff with.
The
So,
pay by phone app.
So I, against my better judgment, used my cell phone that I pointed at one of these weird looking blocks. QR codes, which gave it's kind of like, well, I did the event, so yeah, I'll do this, but it really doesn't feel right involved. It turns out it was okay, but I could see that being a real quick way to lose a lot of money. And I know with a credit card, you have some protection because if it's a bogus thing that they will, in my understanding, they will cover the loss if you can in some way demonstrate that it's inappropriate.
Yeah, I've had my credit card stolen via Uber before, and I was able to get money back from it. Someone took a $100 ride through Istanbul on my account, and I called them and I was like, I am not in Turkey, but
in this case, I did supply the numbers for service, so that would be hard to refute. And I felt pretty comfortable doing it because it was a physical person and a physical lot, and they would have had to gone through a lot of effort to scam $15 out of me. So I thought, okay, this may be okay. But on the other hand, I felt really uncomfortable putting my credit card number on my phone to a person that I had never seen before. Is there any advice in a circumstance like that?
so my recommendation with that, I mean, I paid using, it's pay by phone, there's a couple different ones with the QR codes posted. We said there was a person involved with it?
No, the sequence was, he asked, because I guess a lot of people do have a way of paying right with their phone, and I said, no, I didn't, and so he had hanging on his neck his card that had this QR code, and I scanned that, and then a link popped up on my phone that I then proceeded to do the information regarding how to charge.
Yeah.
So,
There's no way to know that the QR code around his neck is legitimate, but, I mean, was he official looking? Like, was he, because what I've had happen before is I'll park somewhere, this was so simple, but a guy came up to me and my college roommate, and he was like, hey, I'll get it for you. And my roommate hands him $20, and he's like, yeah, I'll go pay the parking for you. And he just starts walking away, and I was like, hey man, give us the money back. This was for a Mariners game. And he was like, no, I'm gonna get it for you. And I was like, what? But it was just like this really nice dude was like, hey, I'll go get the machine for you. And then he just started walking away. So pay by phone and things like that, I mean, that's a pretty common thing. Usually there's signs posted with a QR code on it. And once you open your phone, you can kind of see if that, I always just check and see if the garage that I'm parking in or the area that I'm parking in actually has that service available. Because that's a hard one, because in a lot of these places, there's not a lot of options to park. You know, I've been in that situation where I'm driving around, you know, CenturyLink Field trying to find parking, and the game's starting, and I'm like, okay, we'll just go here, I guess. We'll pay the $50. And, you know, you're under that time crunch, right?
right, and so handing $50 is one thing, then it's over and done with the Eastern Park, but
Yeah.
in this case, and
Your account.
any of these key numbers kind of opens the door to way more than $50. But there were other cars parked there. Like I said, he had a sign made up that said event parking, what the event was and all that. So I felt a bit secure there, but you know, there's some pretty tricky ways of doing business that look legit.
I mean, it sounds super sketch to me, but
Super what?
sketchy, like
That's a company.
suspect. But yeah, it sounds sus, but I mean, I've paid that way before. You know, maybe it's not terribly smart, but a lot of places are set up where you pay that way. I mean, it doesn't sound, you said you didn't lose any money, right?
I don't know yet.
So you're looking for advice for what to do now.
I think I know what to do now, and
Yeah.
that is to see if I have clears on my, because I get a statement every day from my credit card company that says your new balance of such and such.
I would check how much you were charged, and I mean, we can talk afterwards, and I can look into it a little bit for you, because that's in, where was it?
In Everett at
Everett.
Angel Winds Arena.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm still not 100% sure, so.
Yeah, I can look into it for you, because that's, I mean, I've paid that way before. It doesn't sound super
Sketchy.
above board. It doesn't sound, it sounds a little sketchy, but at the same time, like, I think parking anywhere and paying that much money is a little unfortunate, but you have to do what you have to do, right? I just,
Right.
you know, was there any other options to park?
$20 backside of it, so.
Well, I mean, in the end, like, whenever I go to an event, I usually check if they have a parking pass option to buy with a ticket, but that's not always available. We went to a Mariners game during COVID and got parking for really cheap, and then the next time we went, the parking was, exorbitant because I guess COVID was over, supposedly, and everyone was back. So, yeah, I'll talk to you afterwards and I'll look into it for you because that's interesting. It doesn't sound, it sounds like it might be legitimate, but it sounds weird, so. Because people set up parking things, I mean, it happens, right? Yeah.
Can I just make a comment on that? I had once before, I went to a park and there was a QR code and I hit it. I started to put the information in and the link it took me to didn't feel quite right. And I took and paused and I looked and the QR code had been pasted over another QR code. So checking to make sure that this is the legitimate QR code that someone has been pasted over is not a bad first step. Anyway, I don't know what would have happened if I'd gone ahead, but I decided, no, I wasn't going to play with it. So.
And I think in the meantime, just keeping an eye on the credit card statement, seeing how much you were charged, and then kind of going from there. It'd be interesting to call up that parking garage and say, hey, do you have someone posted up there with a QR code around their neck asking people to pay for stuff? Because there's parking attendants at these things, right? I mean, it happens, but...
Well, I also should mention that I did get an email today confirming that it was Port of Everett or something.
Okay.
So I think I'm okay, but
I would imagine you're okay, but like I said, it does sound kind of weird. Like I've never had someone with a QR code around their neck do it. Usually they have a kiosk there that they'll point you towards, but I don't know. It's interesting. I'll have to look at it.
I want to thank you for this presentation. I found it interesting.
Sure.
I didn't fall asleep, doze off.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. I want to know a little bit about the police aspects of this. First of all, what are the penalties for these scams? How does it, under what, is it a misdemeanor, a felony? What are the legal restraints for this kind of behavior? That's my first question. My second question is, how often do you actually catch somebody and prosecute them? I want to know something about the background.
So, how often do we catch someone scamming people? It's pretty rare that we actually do catch someone. A lot of the time, when someone does get caught, it's going to be through a bigger federal case. Because often you're working with authorities overseas, and we can only go so far as our communications with them. As far as the type of penalties, I'll look into it to get back to you, but it does depend on the amount that gets taken. I can tell you a lot of the time, more than 20 grand is getting taken from people. I read the police blotter every week for the American and everywhere else, but we send that out to the American, and I think this week somebody lost 70 grand in Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, but some other cryptocurrency, just out the window, because they sent it to the wrong wallet. And I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. I mean, I know that it's gaining popularity, but I mean, 68 grand out the window, just poof.
What I was trying to get at was, what's the penalty? Is this a form of fraud?
Yes.
It's called fraud.
We code it as fraud in our system, so
Okay.
It's not like it's coded. It comes in as a fraud. That's kind of the alert code that we have for it.
Mm-hmm.
Alert code's not the right word, but that's the code that we have that appears on the top of the report, and the case number in our system is fraud.
The last thing I want to say is I do almost all my business with credit cards because I have some protection.
Yep.
Because if I get a charge, and I don't agree with it, I don't like it, the credit card company, which happens to be Bank of America in this case, my Visa, has been very good about helping me sort out charges. And if I can just, without a lot of effort, they'll oftentimes hold that charge. They'll take it out of my account, so I don't have to pay for it if I don't want to. I did have one episode, I'm having a hard time, I think I blocked it out, where I did get into a scam, and I realized it, but I used my credit card to pay for it, and I was able to get it taken off my charge. So I would encourage people to use You know, the QRCs, you pay a tremendous price for convenience. And I would say the credit card is the only thing that I know of where I actually have some recourse for charges that I don't agree with. So,
Well, that's the nice thing about your charge is, I mean, if it's not legitimate, you can dispute it. Like, that's why people want you to use Zelle and want you to use cryptocurrency and gift cards. It's because you can call your bank or your credit card company and say, hey, I didn't make that charge. That Uber thing I told you about, I called my bank and said, nope, and it was back on my account the next day. So it's in their best interest to not let you get defrauded, but you know, banks are getting better and better about noticing if someone comes in and talks to the teller and they're sitting on the phone and they look very quiet and they're very hushed and they have the phone to their ear. Tellers and even people at Target selling gift cards are getting a little wiser to it these days, which is nice. And a person at a bank can't tell you, I'm not giving you your own money. But there is a little bit more happening nowadays where they're like, hey, do you want to do that? Or do you want to take a minute and talk to me about what's going on? Because you're sitting on the phone and it seems like you're being very hushed and it seems like someone's telling you what to do. Because a lot of the time they just sit in your ear and tell you, oh no, they're going to tell you no, but you should do it. And it gets you between a rock and a hard place, and that's just kind of the way it is. So credit cards are a legitimate way of doing business. And that's because it's as easy as a phone call canceling the money that you spent. And I think if you do that a lot and you start canceling transactions and then they try to verify it and they're like, no, you actually did buy those groceries that you canceled the transaction, well, that's a different story. But if if it's illegitimate, then there's a way to get that money back. So that's why it's a legit form of payment. It's because you can just dispute it. But you can't call Apple and say, hey, I bought your gift cards and I didn't actually do it. They're going to say sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention a couple of computer security things that are simple.
Sure.
In addition, one is change your passwords often.
Yeah.
Especially for your bank accounts, credit cards, anything involving money, and Google, and Facebook. So it's a pain in the neck to change them.
It's
At
terrible.
least every 6 months.
And you can get password managers that are pretty useful because who's going to remember an actually secure password every time you create one? We can all pretend like we don't have the same password used in a few different ways, but I certainly do. It's just another vector, right?
And the other thing for financial, your bank accounts, and credit cards and whatnot, you can do what's called, I think it's two-party or third-party authentication, where they send you a text with a code number as an extra level of security.
And if anyone ever asks you for that code on the phone, they always say, we'll never ask you. So if anybody ever asks you that, that's a scam. Because that's for you.
And it's only good for a few minutes anyway.
Right, but if someone's like, hey, get your $2,
Right.
that's, if someone asks you for it, they're not legit. So.
Another thing is banks are really great at, if you get scammed, if you are on it right away, you can close all your accounts instantly. And then it's a pain in the neck, but you can get brand new accounts with new numbers and stuff. And once you do that, they can't get into your bank, any of your bank information. It's just, so if you feel like, oh my, I really blew this one, I'm going to do that, they're very agreeable to changing accounts and changing numbers quickly, like instantly. They'll close your account like in 1 second. It's a little inconvenient, but they'll do it.
They have your best interest in mind usually, because you're putting your money in there.
Right. Yeah.
The less money that you have, the less money they have, I guess, is how you can think about it. So
Right.
they'll help you as long as if you try to catch it quickly enough. A lot of the time, it's like I said, if it's gift cards,
Right.
they're not going to cancel the gift card they've already put money on because they can't. I'm hoping at some point down the road there's something that can be done about that stuff. If gift cards continue to be a problem, which they seem like they will be, it's a really easy way to launder money. And by laundering money, I mean it's an easy way for people to get you to just, you're buying a card. So that's not really money anymore. That's money you can use towards something. But I'm hoping something can be done to make them either more traceable or to maybe increase the penalties for that kind of fraud. it's really prevalent and it happens a lot. And part of it is that, technology's weird and it's always advancing, and I think a lot of people have in the back of their mind, well, maybe that's how business is done these days. Maybe paying with an Apple gift card is something. Maybe it's something you do. Maybe that's how people accept payment. And I can tell you it's not unless it's Apple. But, we don't always know that. It's a strange world that is always changing. So just verify, look it up, Google it. You'll probably learn what you need pretty quickly. But it's in their best financial interest to not let you have time to do that. So hang up the phone. Yeah.
Well, I got scammed last year for $20,000, and I never got it back. And the way it happened was I have an Apple computer, and I was working on the computer, and all of a sudden there was all kinds of stuff like your TV when it goes snowy or whatever. And so I deal with Apple all the time. I have an Apple phone, an Apple computer, and I have the phone number for a tech help, but there was a number on the bottom of the screen, call, and I sort of panicked because my computer was going crazy, and so I called that phone number instead of the real maintenance department of Apple. And then it just started from there, and I said, the guy was an Apple, person. Well, of course he wasn't. And I said, I can't talk to you. I said, something's happened, and I don't know what. And I said, I have to call my bank. I have to call the fraud department at my bank. And he said, well, I can connect you to, and he connected to me, this guy that pretended he worked for U.S. Bank. And so he said, you've got to you have to protect the money that you still have in your account. So he said, you go to the bank and take out $20,000. And I went to the bank, and he said, now, thinking that maybe he was, it sounds so legitimate, He answered the phone, bank, U.S. Bank, fraud department, so he said, okay, we'll go to the bank and get out the money, and you're going like, oh, this can't be happening to me. And he said, leave your phone on, so he said, so I can hear what's going on. And so he said, they're going to ask you at the bank if this is a fraud situation. And he said, you can tell them no, because I'm the fraud person for the U.S. Bank. And so the teller asked me that, and I said no. And he was looking at me, and I was like, of course, in hindsight, it's 2020, right? I was like, oh my God. But I was telling Bert before that, after the whole thing was over, and I had a really wonderful person at the bank that helped me through this. And he said, I said, the next time what you should do is to write a note and pass it to the customer with saying, are you being, so anyway, so then I got in my car and I had $20,000, and I was instructed to go to a Bitcoin machine in Burlington, and had to feed $20,000 into this Bitcoin machine, and then give him the receipt numbers. hate to tell this story because it makes me, I'm not, I think my friend's gonna attest to the fact that I'm not stupid.
I believe you.
And, so, what a lesson that was. And so I had to put the money in the Bitcoin machine and then give him the receipt number. And, so I went to the Anacross Police. And, unfortunately, I knew the officer. I was very embarrassed. Janet. And, but the interesting thing is, he had been, the guy, this was 2 days later, and he kept phoning me, this guy from the fraud department, the fake fraud guy. Anyway, and so when I was sitting with Janet, the phone rang, and I looked and I said, "It's him." And she said, I said, "Should I answer?" And she said, "Oh yeah," and put him on speakerphone.
I remember that.
And then she took over and she just said, "This is Janet Wilson from the Anacross Police Department." And she said, "This is going to the FBI." So, but I never got my money back.
And it's interesting because we can talk about all these different examples, right? But in that case, I mean, you hadn't provided remote access to your computer. It was hacked through some means, right? So you're calling the number on there, thinking it's legitimate. And, you know, it's so often just people trying to do the right thing. It's like, yeah, of course I want to talk to the fraud department. I don't want to lose the rest of my money. And you're in an extraordinary situation. So, you know, I always tell people, maybe getting Bitcoin is the way they're going to handle it. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not a banker. I don't work in a bank. I don't work in a fraud department. So when this kind of stuff starts to happen, you're like, well, I guess this is how we do it. Because if it's a unique situation to you, how do you know any better, right? So it's easy to look at those and be like, gosh, how did that happen? But when you're in the situation, I imagine it's quite a bit different.
Well, the one, you know, of course, hindsight is 20/20, right? Because, you know, he said, take the money and put it on $100 bills. Of course, because it made it go faster because it took the machinery. But all the time that I was driving over to where the Bitcoin machine was, I just was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing this. I should, you know, I should just turn around and put my money back in the bank. But you're just so panicky, you know?
Well, they make you panic. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he said, oh, we have to find a way to keep the rest of your money, right?
Well,
Like, we have to find a way
and he
to retain
He
it.
called me later on that day and said, okay, now you have to do it again because, you know, you have to protect the money that's left.
And they will very often follow up with you.
Oh,
Because
yeah, he called me.
if they get money from you, they will maybe call you back, which is interesting to me, but I think it's demonstrative of how difficult it is to actually catch these people. Because they're brazen enough to call someone back, and most people realize they've been scammed before anyone tells them. Usually it takes a little bit, and you start to think like you put the pieces together. This is a dumb example, and it's not intended to be reductive, but my roommate in my senior year of college pranked me one time by putting an envelope full of white powder in my mailbox.
Oh.
And I had a freak out moment, but the address on it was for Burger King in Bellingham. But Burger King in Bellingham has the same road name as my old house in Sumas through a crazy happenstance. So I read Telegraph Road and I went, oh my God, like, how do they know I live on Telegraph Road? And it had white powder and it had a note in it that said, do you know the meaning of life? And I had like a 2-minute freak out about that. And then my other roommate was like, dude, it's just a prank. It's April Fool's Day. And I was like, oh, of course. But it's that little bit of extra stuff that sort of gets to you. And you're like, I still look back at that and I'm like, why did I think that was real? but I fully thought it was real for like 2 minutes. And I tell people that, and they're like, why'd you think it was real? You knew he was gonna do that. And that's a pretty common thing with scams, is you look back at it and you think, like, how did that happen? Like, but then you start to consider the factors, and it's like, they're not trying to take money from you, they're trying to save your money. You have no way, you called the number on your computer. Why would that be any different than the number you're supposed to call? It's all these little factors where you look back at it and it's like, well, you can see how it happened, but
But the guy got my $20,000, and then he had the gall to keep calling me
yeah,
and saying, okay, well, you gotta do it again so that,
They have Bitcoin machines. Is that like
they have
an
them.
ATM?
They have them here. Yeah, they have them here in town.
Where are they? Or where is one, for instance?
Some of the bank ATMs function as them, I think. I think there's one downtown. I looked it up recently because I wanted to get a picture of one, and then I never got it for this presentation, and I never got around to going and taking a picture. But it's happened a couple
I can
times.
tell you where to go.
It's happened a couple times here, and I think at one point it happened at the one in Fred Meyer over in Burlington. They have a Bitcoin machine. I mean, I don't really understand how it works.
Like you put like $100 bills.
You
in
feed
one
your
bucket.
money into it, and then it's.
They take a long
I think
time.
it's supposedly going into a crypto wallet, but when you read him the receipts, I imagine he had access to that wallet
Yeah.
or something.
He automatically had,
But
glad to give him the receipt numbers. Because he was the fraud guy from the US Bank, so,
Cool.
yeah.
Sorry that happened to you. That sucks.
I'm sorry that happened to you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a hard thing to go through, and I'm sure it isn't. I mean,
Thanks for sharing.
I appreciate it because it just makes everyone, because that's the thing that happens, and it's happened to someone here in town, one of our community members. So it's good for us to know, because how else do we get sharper? I can tell all these stories, but at the end of the day, it's way better to hear from people who it's actually happened to, because it happens.
Seem to be a lot more do not call calls that we're getting lately. Is that pretty?
In
is
terms
that
of
happening to everybody?
like
They
more
all-
scam calls?
Most of them say spam question mark before.
Yeah.
But they all come from like Fort Townsend, Gig
Yep.
Harbor, all.
So those are usually, I forget, I'm trying to think of the term. Those are usually spoofed numbers. So I have a 253 number because that's where my phone is through from like 12 years ago, or 15 years ago now, gosh. But it's just, I get calls from 253 numbers all the time, and I don't know those numbers. It's just where my phone happens to be from. But they're just spoofing it, so you see it's from Washington and you answer the phone, but it's just from a batch of fake numbers that they're able to sort of use. And I don't know how that works. I feel like that shouldn't be possible, but they do it. And, it happens, so.
We got a spam call one time, and I read that it was Majestic Hotel.
Yeah.
So I called the Majestic just to let them know, and I don't know if they could ever do anything about that. I'm guessing not, but they thank you for calling.
Yeah, if anything, it's letting them know that people might be getting calls from not them, but it says it's them. People, one more common question I get is, when should I call the police about this stuff? And even if you haven't gotten scammed, but you got a scam call, you can always call about it and report it. You can even call me and say, hey, I didn't lose any money, but, it'll take a few minutes to talk to the officer, say I didn't lose any money. They'll call it a sell by contact, so it's just a short paragraph, but then it's in the system, then we all read it, and then we know that if someone else calls later on and says, hey, I got scammed by this, then we know what happened, It's just little things that kind of sharpen you, so. Anyway, we've gone on a while.
That was delightful.
Thanks for sharing and talking and having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It's an unfortunate topic, but something we need to really know about. And thanks for sharing that, because I'm sure that everyone who gets scammed feels like an idiot. Like, how could I fall for that? Well, what a fool I was, but you're not. And so you have to kind of remind yourself that thousands and hundreds of thousands of people get scammed a million different ways, and you're not an idiot, because you beat yourself up afterwards, And
still be my.
You're the victim, you're not the, you have to remember that you're the victim of that. So, anyway, thank you all for coming, and really appreciate it, and hopefully see some of you next month.